Hello and welcome to Coding for Kids. In this tutorial, we're going to look at lists in Python. Let's get started. Okay, so over here I've got my shell and I've opened a file and written some code that I can show you guys about lists. Basically, a list is a way of sorting out data in Python. So here you can see I've got two different lists. The first one's called myList, and this is the syntax that you use when you're writing a list. You go equals, square brackets, and then each thing in your list, if it's a word, is in inverted commas, and a comma separates all of the different elements of the list, and then you finish with a square bracket. As you can see, I've got two different lists, both with the same syntax, so these are both correct. Right, let's look at what you can do with a list. Okay, so this first one, print my list, is pretty self-explanatory. If we run this, it's just going to print the list exactly how it is up here. This next example, we have the exact same code as before, but now we've got an extra part, which is square brackets, square brackets, where we want to print it. What do you think this is going to do? Let's run it and find out. Here, it's just printed orange. And so what we can see here is orange is number 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we change this to 0, and save and run this, it will print red, which is the first one. So this is useful for printing exactly what you want out of a list in the order that the list is made in. This next example is very similar to the last, except now it's got a negative. So what do you think this is going to do? The negative is going to print the last one, so starting from the back. Notice though how with the last one, it doesn't start at green, because there's no -0. So -1 is the last one and 0 is the first one. This example, we've added another number. We've got 2, then a colon, then a 5 in the square brackets. When we're talking about lists and there's a colon, it usually means up to or as a range. So let's print this and see what it does. It's printed yellow, green, and blue. And so as we counted before, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we've got number 2, which is yellow, and it prints up to 5, which is blue, except blue is 4. And so if you put this as 100, it will only print yellow, green, and blue, because there's only up to 5 in here, but we call it 0, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So this is useful for printing parts of a list without printing the whole list. This next manipulation is got the colon and the 3, but without the first number. So let's run this and find out what it does. You can see it's printed red, orange, yellow. We know that that's 0, 1, and 2. So it's up to 3. So we know that green is 3, and we're going from 0, basically 0, all the way up to 3. But like we learnt in for loops, it doesn't include the last one. So it's just going 0, 1, 2. This is also helpful in the manipulation of data. This example is very similar to the last example, except this one is going to print from 3 onwards. So let's run this so you can see. So we know that green is 3 and blue is 4, and there's nothing after that. So it is just printed green, then blue. It's important to note that when you're using 3 as the bottom value, it is included in there. It's not starting from 4. This next one looks a little bit more complicated. We learned in the last tutorial about for loops, and so thinking about that, what do you think this is going to do? If we go for I in myList and then print myList, it should run through each element of the list and print it. Okay, so let's run this and see. Sorry, we were talking about myList 2, not myList. But as you can see, this didn't do what we expected. Because for I in, it's counting how many things are in myList, and then it wants us to print myList that many times. So if this has got 4 terms in it, maybe, like we'll add one here, then it should print it 4 times next time. So let's run this and see. See, 4 times, and it's printed the entire list. This is a mistake that's common to make, and you've got to watch out for, because it might not do exactly what you want it to. This next for loop is a little bit better. So instead of printing myList 2, we're going to print I. So this should print each element of the list. So let's see. As you can see, it's printed A, B, C, D, which is what we were expecting because it's iterating through the list just like we learned in the last tutorial. The next feature that we can look at when we're working with lists is the len function. This prints the length of the list. And so the syntax that we've used here is we're printing my list, but we want to print the length of my list. You can also change this to define variables like this. So a equals length my list, print a. This is helpful to use when you're mathematically using a list or when you want to count how many things are in a list. So let's run this and see what happens. 5, 5, 4. That's exactly what we expected because there's 5 terms in the first one and 4 in the second one. Finding the length of a list can be very helpful at times. This last manipulation of lists is called mylist.append. And what this is adding something else to the list. So if we want to append purple into mylist as another color, then all we've got to do is go mylist.append and then whatever we want to go in. If we run this, it will append it and then we'll print the new list. Let's watch this. So now you can see that our list now has the previous 5 plus purple. So mylist.append is adding something to the list. Don't forget the dot, and whatever you put in brackets is what gets added to the list. These are the basic functions that help you manipulate a list. Thank you for watching this Coding for Kids tutorial. We hope to see you in the next one.